Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy. And I'm going to try to do this tarot tag, if my dogs will let me. They're being a little bit fussy. So this was started by Dead Cheeky, and I saw it at the Tarot Alchemist channel. You might be able to hear my terrier. She's winding up to make a lot of noise here. And here comes the big dog. Here comes the big dog. You can get your big head in the picture. Maybe not. So this has to do with International Women's Day and International Women's Month. So the day, I believe, is March 8th, the day I'm actually creating this. And I've decided to pull out my Ancient Feminine Wisdom deck. Very cool backings on this deck. Because I don't use it very often. I do like it, but I don't use it all that often. It's one I need to spend some more time connecting with. So this tag looks at our female ancestors. Can be mothers, other trailblazers. So essentially women in our past. Then it looks at the women who are around us, or our sisters, in other words, our peers. It looks at ourselves, so how we can sing our own praises and support ourselves. And then at daughters or younger women, and how we can support them. So it goes back, and then around, and then inward, and then forward. What are you doing, you crazy dog? She almost never does that. She's trying to get my terrier's trying to get my old dog to play a little bit. They haven't played very much since I got the big dog. It's just too stressy. No, don't tear up my sweater. Zippy, no. Shh. And wish me luck on that one. Okay. So I've spread them out here. So the first thing we're going to look at is ancestors or female trailblazers, mothers. I think I'm going to resist that big one that's sticking out there in the middle. I feel like it's one of these ones over here. I'm going to go for this one. Oh, and there's Persephone. Persephone had popped out as I was shuffling before I got on camera. There's Persephone. And so I would say this, we need to honor and respect the sacrifices that they made as trailblazers. You know, to me there's a lot about Persephone that is challenging, right? About her role that is challenging, how she was abducted and yet ended up being able to make a life with I don't know, Hades? I can't remember what he was called in the myth. And she eventually was able to establish, I think it was more the work of her mother, communication. So keeping that communication open, even though we are independent, and again honoring the trials that they went through, and not judging them for the compromises that they made, because there weren't choices. I'm not sure that Persephone had a choice in this life. So interesting card to come up for mothers. Alright, so next, how can we show gratitude? How can you show support to the women around you now? And I feel like that's this card. Intuition, Cassandra. Cassandra, intuition. So apparently she knew when a disaster was going to strike, just from the picture. But I'm going to get out the guidebook to renew my understanding of Cassandra. But I would say sharing, when you know something that another woman doesn't know, to share it so that they then have that knowledge. I can think of many times where I've had to say, all right, often somebody who has either a spouse has died, or they're getting a divorce, or the spouse becomes disabled, not able to function normally, and having lived not without help from others, but very much independently for a long time, I can say, you really need to establish your own line of credit. This is how I go about hiring people to do things for me, So yeah, we need to share what we know. This doesn't necessarily have a perfectly... There's Cassandra. She's in Power of the Heroine. 44. No, it doesn't have... it has a logical structure, grouping, but it's not automatically logical. Let's just say that. It's like if you know the myths, it makes sense, but... where did you go, Cassandra? She's in here somewhere. There she is. As a young woman, Cassandra answered her calling as a seer and entered the temple to serve Apollo, who fell in love with her. When she did not reciprocate Apollo's desire, he cursed her, so no one believed her prophecies. Cassandra personifies the medial woman whose intuitive faculties and understanding of unconscious patterns are not welcomed in a rational society. Interesting. She sees what others are too fearful to see, exposing the inevitable fate no one wants to accept. The card advises us to be receptive to collective messages that arise, even though they may not be understood or valued by others. Cassandra invites you to rely on your intuitive knowledge and explore the unconscious language of symbols and images. When the card is chosen, you are seeking a message of guidance. The answer is all around you. Intuitive knowing springs out of the collective unconscious. Through unbound participation with everything in the environment, we become receptive to the spirits of the world beyond us and are called to act as their messenger. So, this also speaks to pure intuition, sharing our intuitive faculties, encouraging other people to also be intuitive and trust their intuition. Okay. How can I sing my own praises? Isn't that always something very difficult? Fate. And it's, I don't know how you say that, Moirai. So yes, these are the fates. Are there three sisters that... This card has come up for me before. And it's funny when you have a deck, and it's like you rarely use it, and every time you use it, the same card comes up. Doesn't mean I'm going to remember where it's at in here there. They are also part of the power of the heroine. Moirai are a trinity of powerful goddesses who fabricate the patterns of our lives. As weavers of the cosmic design, the sisters spin, measure, and control the lifespan. So I'm already thinking in terms of singing my own praises, my ability to kind of manipulate the environment. In some ways, this is about leadership and the ability to kind of make my own choices, I feel like. On the left is Clotho, the spinner, who turns the thread of life on her spindle. Lachesis, the apportioner, is the middle sister who assigns the lot of life to each person by measuring the length of the thread. The third sister is Atropos, the inevitable, who cuts the thread of life. In one version of the Fates' birth, they were the daughters of Night, the mother of all ills. According to this narrative, they are undifferentiated, ruthless, unforgiving, and full of rage at the sins of mankind. Oh my God. In the other myth, they are daughters of Zeus and Themis, both gods of justice and order. The dual genealogies refer to the different ways we experience fate. Moire invites us to pay attention to the destiny that has been assigned to you and to respect the divine order of life. So I almost feel like this is saying, for this question, how can I sing my own praises, is just to be very firm and definite that this is my path. This is what I do. This is who I am. This is it. This is it. And to be I don't know, I almost feel like just saying, just be happy with that. I mean, you don't have to, I don't have to prove anything necessarily. It's just to kind of declare it, I guess. Fate is greater than any individual and inspires us to be respectful of the patterns of life woven around us. And certainly I think it's also saying that I can feel confident to say when I do see those patterns, to acknowledge that I do see the patterns. And again, you declare it, you see it. If other people don't like it, that's their problem. The ancients described character as fate. Inherent in each human are inalterable patterns that shape our temperament from birth. We are called upon to accept them and follow the course predesigned by the Moire. I can think of one other thing that reminds me of the whole seeing of patterns, and recently I was seeing patterns. I was seeing patterns, and I didn't want to pursue an article, but I felt like somebody ought to write an article about it. And so I called the New York Times, and I said, if somebody hasn't already looked into this, would you look into it? And there's some appearance that they did. So cool. All right. Oh my goodness. It looks uncomfortable. The card looks uncomfortable. So this is the last one. What gifts can we leave for future generations? I guess for me, I would think of that more, future generations. How can we empower future generations? That's what I want to do. I want to empower them. It's always the thing where you think, I just want to keep them from making my mistakes. And that's not fair, because we grow from those things. But at the same time, I'm in a position where I sometimes have young women in my class, quite young, and sometimes I end up aware, recently I was aware, of that they do, I'm not a mother, so I don't have that kind of going for me in terms of thinking of myself as a role model. But in my classes, they do kind of look at me as a role model, or there's a level of curiosity that is more than idle. It's more than idle curiosity. And I did recently have some young women in my class who were, they flash signs at you. Like I gave one, we were practicing dialogue, and she was practicing asking questions. She went totally off topic and was asking me all kinds of questions about myself, which I went with it, and I just told her everything as honestly as I could. And then they had a project where they were having to invent someone and give them a name. Guess whose name they chose? They chose my name. So, yeah, I'm aware of the impact I can potentially have on young people, young women. And I feel strongly about helping them become more assertive. Some of them, of course, some women are naturally assertive. But oftentimes young women have goals, but they don't have the, this is true of some young men too, but fewer of them, but they don't have quite the self-esteem, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it no matter what. And they even give off, even intelligent young women, they'll give off an air of sort of helplessness that's disturbing to me. And I wish, unfortunately I'm only with them a very short time, but I wish I could take them and put them through a brutal training course. Anyway, yes, I will put them through this. Oh, Lordy. But anyway, I'm not in a position to do that, so I can only be who I am and hope that they absorb positive things from observing me in my role. Okay, so what did I get for the gifts we can leave for future generations, or how we can support? This, it's creation. Eurynomy, I'm guessing is how you pronounce that. And it's a very interesting card. It's like there's the egg, there's the goose, and then there's a serpent of some kind. So let's see what it says. To the ancient Aegean people, Eurynomy arose out of chaos and separated the land from the sky. Interesting. Eurynomy began her work bringing the world into being, laying the egg from which all creation came forth. The primordial Eurynomy heralds the birth of a new order or the reimagining of an idea or project. Okay, that's cool. So, in other words, to me that means allowing them to recreate the world and supporting them as they recreate their, the world that's going to be theirs. Her presence confirms there is something in the wind. The serpent coiled around the goddess is an omen that the instinctual force of creativity is about to arise and reshape the world as you know it. On an oracular level, Eurynomy signals the outpouring of creative possibilities. Out of chaos emerges the power to create. Eurynomy personifies the possibility that something can arise from nothing, and that creative potentials arise out of confusion and disarray. So that's essentially just telling me not to worry about these young women who are in confusion and disarray, because they are undergoing a creative process. They are still creating themselves. We talk about how, well, our perception as older people is that women, or young women, mature faster than men, or young men, or boys. But it could be that there is an aspect in which that isn't true, or for which that isn't true. which I would say is about feeling ownership of the world, feeling that it is their world, to change and manipulate as Eurynomé did. And I'll share, there's this story, it's worth sharing. It shouldn't take very long. In a book that I was reading a book about the development, I believe, the development of teenagers, or how to help teenagers, young women, have robust self-esteem. And it was about a girls' school, and yeah, it must have been a high school or something. A private, of course, so it's not something most women have an opportunity to go to. But in order to register to become a student at this school, the girls had to go through a ropes course. So they had to go through a challenging ropes course in order to be accepted. And there was this one girl, the story is about this one girl who kept wanting to do, anybody who's familiar with dogs, wanted to do a golden retriever, passive resistance. So she was at a point where she had to grab a rope and she had to climb the wall. She had to find a way to get up the wall using the rope. And she wouldn't. She would go part way up and she'd flop and she'd go down and she'd say, I can't do it, I can't do it. And as the story goes, the instructor just sat there waiting and just told her, we're waiting for you, we're here, we're waiting for you. You know, there's no way to get around it. You have to, if you want to commit, you know, if you want to be part of the school, if you want to do it, here we are, but we can't help you. There will be no help for you. You have to do it yourself. You have to get up here. And I guess there was a lot of fussing and cussing and all kinds of things by this young woman. Eventually she got herself into a state, I guess, where she was angry enough that she grabbed the, you know, she took the rope, she did it, and she got up to the top. And the woman supposedly thought the girl, I mean, she looked really angry, and she thought the girl might hit her or something. And instead, the girl grabbed her and gave her a big hug and said, that's the first time I've ever done anything on my own. And I expect that's an exaggeration. If you were to talk to her parents, they would probably have a different story. But it just shows the power of, I don't know, kind of challenging, well, everybody, whether it's somebody younger, somebody the same age, or somebody older who is in a habit of feeling helpless, how you can kind of support them in a struggle that you know that they can do. But I mean, I guess I do this all the time as a teacher. I always, just the other night, somebody was saying, just tell me the answer, teacher. No, no, I'm not telling you the answer. It's in your notes. You look it up. So, and yes, he did eventually get it. But, so I guess I just want to put that out there. I mean, I guess I'm not being who I am, being my moire self. I'm not into just letting people moon their lives away, I guess is kind of what I feel like some young women want to do, and even some older women want to do it, moon their lives away. It's like, no, be the Eurynomé. Get out there, create, manipulate, attack, bring your magic serpent with you, and recreate the world. Anyway, but it's saying that message was also for me to just chill and let them do it and come to it in their own time, I think. All right, take care, everybody, and thanks so much for this cool tag. I would be happy to do that like annually. I think it's a great tag. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.